Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya. Srimad Bhagavad-gita, as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Chapter 2, Text 11, a well-known verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashochan Vasochastvam Pragyavadangscha bhashase Gatasuna gatasungscha Nanusochanti panditaha. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Purport. The Lord at once took the position of the teacher and chastised the student, calling him indirectly a fool. The Lord said, you are talking like a learned man, but you do not know that one who is learned, one who knows what is body and what is soul, does not lament for any stage of the body, neither in the living nor in the dead condition. As explained in later chapters, it will be clear that knowledge means to know matter and spirit and the controller of both. Arjuna argued that religious principles should be given more importance than politics or sociology. But he did not know that knowledge of matter, soul and the Supreme is even more important than religious formularies. And because he was lacking in that knowledge, he should not have posed himself as a very learned man. As he did not happen to be a very learned man, he was consequently lamenting for something which was unworthy of lamentation. The body is born and is destined to be vanquished today or tomorrow. Therefore the body is not as important as the soul. One who knows this is actually learned, and for him there is no cause for lamentation regardless of the condition of the material body. Before I speak on the topic of this verse, I want to talk about this garland. This is worth talking about. It's transcendental, offered to Sri Nrsimhadev, the Personality of Godhead. In our Krishna conscious movement, we get used to having garlands, I guess especially the sannyasis. But this garland struck me as symbolic of everything that Srila Prabhupada promised us for these farm communities. When we were driving here from Munich, as many of you must have driven many times along that road, you go past the factory. I guess that's the main factory, is it, for manufacturing what in English is called BMW cars, and in German is called BMW. BMW. Okay. BMW. Which is a prestigious car, pride of Germany, along with Mercedes-Benz. And Volkswagen, little lower down. So a person is considered very opulent if they have a BMW car, but this is real opulence. Srila Prabhupada, he wasn't much impressed by motor cars. He likened them to tin cans, and he compared the running on four wheels to the running on four legs of a dog. just running without any particular purpose, just running and running. But this is real opulence. This is Krishna gives beautiful flowers and no shortage. You can see they're not skimpy here. It's so many flowers in one go. It also shows so much devotion of the devotees who are making it. You could just make with just one at each point, but there's about. I don't know, it's difficult to say. There's so many. So this is the opulence that Srila Prabhupada wanted to give us, living simply and happily without all that nonsense mental ups and downs, helter-skelter, who's got a bigger car, more prestigious car. Just forget all that and be a humble servant and live very peacefully and very happily on nature's gifts, which means Krishna's gifts, which we offer to Krishna, and we subsist on that. We enjoy as subordinate enjoyers, taking pleasure in Krishna's happiness, being the pleasure that the devotee gets from seeing the Lord dressed in garlands is of a completely different level to that of a materialist buying a new car, which for a materialist that's a big pleasure, especially if it's his first BMW. If he's been driving Volkswagens all his life and suddenly his status goes up and then he gets a BMW, it's great pleasure, but it's of a different, or Skoda. Now as we have a Czech contingent here also. But it's on a completely different platform, the happiness of a devotee. Just to be happy in the happiness of the Lord, and to take Krishna's gifts. And even materially, this is much more wholesome to have fresh food, fresh air, which BMW can't give you fresh air, that's for sure. These rascals, they're advertising green fuel, that it pollutes less, low emissions. It's still polluting, it's just less than some other fuel. So fresh air, fresh water, fresh food, fresh mind, and Krishna is always fresh. So anyway, the verse I want to speak on today, these are the first words of Krishna in the Bhagavad-gita. There is in the first chapter, Krishna, there are a few words spoken by him, but really, the Bhagavad-gita really, at the beginning of this chapter, but there are just a few words, and now Krishna will get into his long speech. So, it's a heavy start. It's a heavy situation. All the great warriors of the world are facing each other, and mass slaughter is expected. And actually it happened. All the great famous kings of the world, with just a few exceptions, were about to be killed. And Arjuna, at the last moment, started to think differently. Now if we consider that for more than 13 years, since the banishment to the forest, and then after coming out of exile and the build-up to the fight, it was more than 13 years, Arjuna had plenty of opportunity to think about all these things. And certainly the Pandavas were thinking about the opportunity to confront the Kauravas. It seemed likely, throughout their whole spell of banishment. Of course, it could have been possible that it wouldn't happen, but it seemed likely. And especially Bhim, he wanted that, because he didn't, of all the Pandavas, Bhima in particular, he didn't want any reconciliation. He had already vowed to kill all the sons of Dhritarashtra. So he didn't want any reconciliation. So this topic had been not just in their minds, but burning in the minds of the Pandavas for more than 13 years. And now at the last moment, really the last moment, the conches have already been blown, signifying the beginning of the battle. And actually the battle should begin. But all of a sudden, Arjuna had a change of heart. And he became a Buddhist. Seemed like that. He wanted to leave everything and become non-violent and have a peace conference. Now it seems that what Arjuna says, I mean, all of a sudden Arjuna has had a bolt of inspiration, which is some amazing spiritual insights. And he reveals his heart to Krishna. And Arjuna, being most intimate friend of Krishna, could have only expected that Krishna, who is his heart-to-heart friend. Later in Gita we'll find Krishna says, Suhridam sarva bhutanam. Krishna says that he is the heart-to-heart friend of every living being, but particularly of Arjuna. Even among all the Pandavas, they're all completely heart-to-heart with Krishna, but particularly Arjuna was very close to Krishna, more even than the other Pandavas. They had so much history together. They were practically they're so close. It was just like the same person. It's almost like they say the same heart beating in the same body. So Arjuna could expect, when he poured out his heart to Krishna, who is his heart-to-heart friend, to Krishna, whose relationship with Arjuna was such that Krishna could give his life for Arjuna. Of course, there's no question of Krishna dying, but it's that feeling, and Arjuna can give his life for Krishna. So when Arjuna pours out his heart to Krishna, his heartfelt feelings, he could expect sympathy from Krishna. He could expect, if he said to Bhima that I don't think we should fight, he could expect Bhima to respond in a most deprecating way. And Bhishma also. Bhishma would not appreciate if he had said to Bhishma that I don't think we should fight. Then Bhishma, we could not, of course, he would not expect Bhishma to be very harsh with him, but Bhishma, later that will be shown after the battle, that Bhishma is that was known already, but that became clear. He is a huge repository of knowledge of dharma. So according to dharma, Bhishma, he would not approve of not fighting. Bhishma, he has that name because of his terrible vow. He's so much fixed in dharma that he fought his guru. That's very strange. If you're fixed in dharma, how can you fight your guru? But he fought his guru because his guru gave him instruction to break his own promise, to break his vow. Bhishma vowed not to marry, but his guru wanted him to marry. It's one of those complex stories which appear in Mahabharata. And even later in this Mahabharata, we'll find that Arjuna, out of concern for Yudhishthira, left the fight. hearing that Yudhishthira was very seriously injured, and Yudhishthira did not at all approve of Arjuna's leaving the fight, and he strongly chastised Arjuna for doing so. So Arjuna might have intuited that he wouldn't get any, if he'd expressed this to his feelings to Yudhishthira, he wouldn't get any sympathy from him either. How could he expect it from Yudhishthira or Bhima? Because this fight was the culmination of their lives practically. The major event in their life is that Yudhishthira had been unfairly thrown out from his kingdom. And now this evil was about to be redressed in this battle. There's no way to go back. But Arjuna, having a bolt of inspiration and feeling very deeply in his heart, he expresses himself to Krishna, and he can only expect sympathy from Krishna because Krishna is his bosom friend, heart-to-heart friend. Well, Arjuna wasn't expecting what Krishna said. He roundly chastised Arjuna. Now, prior to this, Krishna had chastised Arjuna already, but in a manner that Arjuna might have expected from any kshatriya. Krishna's first chastisement to Arjuna is kshatriya talk. Kutastva kashmalamidam vishame samupastita manarya jushtamasvargama kirti karam Arjuna. How have these bad thoughts come upon you in this moment, in this situation, of all times and places and circumstances? Why and how are you speaking like this? This is not befitting of you, a noble person. This does not lead to the heavenly planets. This leads to infamy. Then, klaibyang mas magama. You see, you're just talking like an impotent, like a eunuch. That's a great insult to call a man a eunuch, especially if he's a kshatriya, who's kshatriyas, the big strong bodies, they live by their strength. They live and die fighting. Klaibyang mas magamaf parata naitat tvayupapadyate kshudra hridaya daurbalyang tyakto tishta parantapa. Don't talk like a eunuch. This is kshatriya talk. This is how kshatriyas talk to each other. Yeah. It's not fitting of you. Give up this weakness, this useless weakness of heart. Get up and fight. Chastiser, your name is Parantapa, chastiser of the enemy. Now again, Arjuna is like he's almost expecting that. Said, okay, yeah, I know you're going to say that. All right. So anyway, I'm not going to fight. But now Krishna, he addresses Arjuna in another way. That you're talking as if you're very learned, but learned people don't speak like this. In other words, if you say to someone that a learned person doesn't speak the way that you are speaking, indirectly you're saying you are not learned. An intelligent, what you said, no intelligent person would say that. So indirectly you're saying you're not intelligent. So now Krishna, seeing that, Arjuna's simply giving him a verbal slap in the face, or punch in the face, has no effect on Arjuna. Now Krishna is going to address the issues which Arjuna has raised. Arjuna, actually he was speaking like a learned person. He was speaking on the basis of dharma. But Krishna said, you're not speaking like a learned person, because there is learning of dharma, what should be done and what should not be done. Those who are learned, pandits, they speak on the basis of dharma, but those who are truly pandits, they understand the essence of dharma. Dharma, this word has many meanings. One aspect of dharma is that dharma is law. What should be done, what should not be done. Laws for people living in this world. So for kshatriyas, there are different laws. There are different laws there are general laws for everyone and particular laws which affect particular people, which to some extent we still, that's there in every society, just like the owner of a property has certain laws which relate to him in that capacity. The owner of a business, it has certain responsibilities that relate to him in that capacity. Parents, a person who is not a parent, and they don't have laws relating to them which pertain to parents. So those who are kshatriyas, they have particular laws for them. So kshatriya, one law is that yuddhe chapya palayanam. He doesn't run away in battle or from battle. So these are laws of human society, and Arjuna had cited some reasons not to fight, but they were basically all on the mundane religious level. Not grossly mundane, but on the mundane religious level, as relates to social, religious laws for maintaining social sanity, harmony, maintaining the a beneficial situation in human society. He said Arjuna had said that if we fight, then all the kshatriyas who are supposed to protect society, they will be killed, and then women will be open. Without the protectors, women will be open to exploitation. This will bring about bad children in society. That was one of the arguments of Arjuna. Another was on a personal level, but also relating to dharma, that one should not kill one's own relatives and gurus. So that was also according to the laws of dharma, but there was some personal feelings of Arjuna. But Krishna said, "You're not speaking like a pandit." And Arjuna said, "Yeah, well, I am speaking like a pandit. I'm speaking according to dharma." But Krishna, by saying that, points out that Arjuna is talking on the social level or the bodily level. Dharma which is for regulating social or bodily relationships. But those who are truly pandits, those who are truly learned, they know that real dharma or the essence of dharma is concerned with the soul, and therefore Krishna will begin his instructions in Bhagavad-gita differentiating between the soul and the body, which Arjuna already knew actually. It wasn't that this was something new for Arjuna. He's raised in Vedic culture, and he spent many years with Yudhishthira in the forest hearing from pandits. And even now in India, even though there's very little system for systematically imparting this knowledge, or among Hindus there's some general idea that after we die we're born again. So what to speak of 5,000 years ago in a cultured Kshatriya family. Certainly Arjuna was aware of the understanding that after we die we get born again. And in fact, Krishna had already mentioned that. What is that? Kutastva kashmalamidam vishame samupastitam anari jushamasva asvargyam. These talk like this, what you're saying doesn't lead to the heavenly planet. So by saying that, it was already implied that Arjuna understood that that one should act in a way that should lead to birth in the heavenly planet. So the fact that the body, after the death of the body, one goes to another body, was already known to Arjuna. Nevertheless, Krishna will begin his teachings in Bhagavad-gita by explaining this and explaining the implications of it. Now, someone might comment that, well, what Krishna is saying, that you should not lament for you are lamenting for that which is not worthy of lamentation, the body. So someone might think, well, this is a very cruel outlook, because we do suffer via the body, and there was so much suffering which was about to take place, and Arjuna wanted to stop that. So Arjuna was very good, and Krishna, it seems, he didn't care about all that suffering that was going to take place. Wasn't it a good idea that Arjuna, he wanted to stop all the suffering? And Krishna said, no, go on, let there be suffering. Well, what kind of a God is that? Someone comes up to him and says, hey, let's make some adjustment so there's no suffering. And Krishna says, no. Let's not make any adjustment. Let there be suffering. Let there be fighting. So that may seem very cruel. Of course, Krishna will explain that you can't stop suffering in this material world. And everyone gets the results of their activities. Krishna will show by showing his universal form that all the warriors on the battlefield, although they're alive now, practically they're already dead. It's just time is separating them, because by their activities they have lined themselves up for dying. Now, this might seem to be, again, a very cruel outlook. There's one disciple of Srila Prabhupada brought this possible objection. He brought this up to Srila Prabhupada after Srila Prabhupada had given a class on this very verse which we're discussing today. So the disciple of Srila Prabhupada by the name of Paramahamsa said to Srila Prabhupada after the class, there's a tendency for someone who hears this verse to think that one should become callous to the sufferings of others. There's a tendency to misunderstand it in that way. Srila Prabhupada replied, no, when we are teaching, it is because the people are suffering on account of ignorance. Therefore we are teaching. How are we callous? We are not callous. We are very much sympathetic to give them knowledge. How do you say? The devotees are not callous. When they are touring all over the world accepting so much trouble, opposition, because they are very much sympathetic with the people who are suffering out of ignorance. They are the most sympathetic friend of the human society. So this is not true that they are callous. So Srila Prabhupada, he responded to the accusation that this verse can be understood as a callous outlook. Srila Prabhupada responded to that accusation by saying that no, look at the devotees then who are following these teachings. They're not callous to the sufferings of others. They've dedicated their lives for helping people to become free from suffering by giving them the knowledge by which they can become free from suffering, because this people are suffering due to ignorance. So it might seem that Srila Prabhupada did not directly, by giving this answer, it might seem that Srila Prabhupada did not directly address the question. But he indirectly answered it by saying that you can't say that devotees or this teaching is callous, because those who follow it, they are very sympathetic to others. They're not callous. But actually it does directly also address the question, because it's not that Krishna wants suffering. It might seem that Krishna is saying, let them suffer. They deserve it. But rather, Krishna, he wants suffering to stop, and therefore he speaks Bhagavad-gita. And that might seem confusing, that if he wants the suffering to stop, then why in Bhagavad-gita does he incite the unwilling Arjuna to fight and cause suffering to others, when he could have accepted Arjuna's proposition and made a peace treaty on the battlefield? However, even from the political point of view, Arjuna's protestation was actually stupid. Because all efforts for making peace had already been made prior to the battle. And Duryodhana was intent on fighting. He saw the Pandavas as the lifelong obstacle to his happiness. Everything would be fine, it's just this creep Yudhishthira. That's what Duryodhana thought. And just get these Pandavas out of the way, and then it'll be, even if we kill Yudhishthira, then Bhima would become the claimant to the throne, so we have to kill him also. Then Arjuna, then Nakul, then Sahadev. Then there are all the children of the Pandavas, so let's get them all together and kill them all. Then we can live peacefully. Then we can happily enjoy ourselves. It's quite opposite to Arjuna's way of thinking, who thought that, well, if they're all dead, then, if we have the throne but they're all dead, we won't be happy. But Duryodhana's outlook was quite different. He thought that if we have the throne and they're still alive, we won't be happy. So if they're dead, then we can be happy. So efforts at peace had already been there. Even if Arjuna just individually wanted to leave the battlefield, then that was not at all a good proposition, because his leaving would not stop the battle. The battle would still go on anyway, but he would be letting down Yudhishthira and Bhima and everyone else who had joined their party with the understanding that Arjuna is there to support us. So he'd be letting them all down. So Krishna, it's not that he was bloodthirsty and he wanted suffering, but it's just the reality of the situation that the fight had to take place. Now you may say, well, Krishna's God, so he can intervene and just change the whole situation. Well, he is the Supreme Lord, but he gives a very small measure of independence to every living being. He doesn't interfere with that. So that the Kauravas, Duryodhana and the Kaurava party, were intent on fighting and not acting in a saintly way and not recognizing Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then Krishna, he didn't interfere with that. And therefore the inevitable that the fight must take place, that Krishna, he didn't interfere with that. So the fight had to go on. But Krishna, he saw that the fight, even though it's a major event in the history of the world, of course nowadays you don't think it's a major event because there are so many, there have been so many big battles in the history of the world. And even major battles there were major battles which even in the recent history, in the last century, which are now, most people probably never heard of them. Maybe. There was a major battle at Stalingrad in the Second World War. That changed the whole course of the Second World War. If the Nazi army had won that, which it seemed when they first went in, then they would have taken over all of Russia. But somehow the Russians held, and eventually they, after a long time, they defeated. So that would have changed the course of history. We might all be doing goose steps and Heil Hitler salutes. Of course, Hitler would have been dead anyway, but if that battle had gone differently, this might be still Nazi Germany if that battle hadn't gone the way it was expected to go. But most people nowadays never even heard of it. And that was just a short time ago. So what to speak of a battle 5,000 years ago? So it was a major event at the time, but history is like that. Big things become small things in the course, and people don't know, they don't care. So many great kings have come and gone. What to speak of kings? Even Brahma has come and go. Koto Chaturanana Mare Mare Jautu. This Vidyapati, the poet says, how many Brahmas have come and gone? What to speak of some kings? So, simply to make some political adjustment so that there won't be suffering, it won't stop suffering. There may be so many peace conferences, and sometimes they're at least superficially successful. I just came from Ireland yesterday, where for many years from 1969 there were riots in Belfast, the capital of Northern Ireland, and it just went on and on and on, and for years, and for many years, for one whole generation, there was fighting in Northern Ireland. Then there was some peace treaty made, and things settled down. And now again it's building up. So at least for some time there was some peace. So you can't legislate peace in this world. There must be fighting, because people are sinful, they're of bad nature, demoniac nature. So Krishna wants to give the knowledge by which people can get free from suffering. This whole idea that we'll have a peace conference and then there'll be no more war. The First World War, that was called the war to end all wars. They thought, okay, we'll finish this war and then there'll be no more wars. Yeah, sure. We want to guarantee peace in the Middle East by we have to, if we invade Syria, and then that will make peace in the there won't be peace. There are so many factors. They're killing animals, slaughtering millions of animals, and talking of peace. They have a peace conference, and then they serve beef in the lunchtime, and they don't know how this world is going on, why there is suffering, which is why Krishna speaks Bhagavad-gita, to give the knowledge by which we can become free from the propensity to cause violence to others, which binds us in this material world. It's not just fighting that's violence. Everything that everyone in the material world does is violence. Even holding a peace conference is violence. Because The idea to live in this world peacefully, separately from Krishna, is itself sinful. And it's the cause, it's inevitably, within that proposition, is the rebelliousness to Krishna, the attitude of defiance of Krishna, in which Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, all the sinful tendencies, lust, greed, anger, envy, pride, illusion, they're all embedded in the attitude of not wanting to submit to Krishna. So even though we may have a peace conference and congratulate ourselves and get a Nobel Peace Prize, along with such great recipients of the Nobel Peace Prize as Henry Kissinger and Barack Obama, but still, that peace, the materialists, they'll make peace because in their present calculation, not fighting is conducive to their self-interest. And when it becomes conducive to their self-interest, then again they'll fight. So it's not, they want peace, but not on the basis of actually living in peace, but out of convenience, that's all. And even those who are committed pacifists, we should not fight on any grounds, but they are also living in the illusion of thinking that we can live peacefully in this world, avoiding Krishna, it's still a sinful mentality. So Krishna, he wants that people can become free of suffering, but that is possible by the knowledge that this world is not meant for peace. This world is meant for suffering because we inflict it on ourselves by coming to this place in the first place. And that will go on. There will always be war in this world. There will always be fighting. There will always be strife. There will always be suffering. Because this world is meant for that. We make the situation. We make the situation. Sometimes people blame God. What is this God? If there's any God, why did he make the suffering? He didn't make it, we made it. Purusha sukha dukkhanam bhuktritve hetu ruchyate. We are ourselves the makers of this suffering condition because of our demoniac attitude of turning away from Krishna, of not wanting to be in harmony with Krishna. We want harmony while being disharmonious with Krishna. Trying to create another center. The center is our own interest. So Krishna gives the knowledge by which we can become free from suffering. And he also knows that not everyone will take this. The world will go on in its suffering way. Jagad viparivartate. It will go running on. This world will go running on in its own way, away from Krishna. But at least those who are intelligent and pious in the true sense of the term, those who are devotional, they can take advantage of this knowledge and become extricated from this condition of suffering in birth and death in this material world. And that's really the only way to get free from the suffering. Otherwise, if there's some pain, you can take a painkiller, but that doesn't stop pain. Temporarily, gives some relief. Peace conference may temporarily give some relief, but the basic condition of this world is one of suffering. So people, as Srila Prabhupada, I quoted him, people are suffering out of ignorance. So Krishna gives the knowledge of Bhagavad-gita by which we can come out of the ignorance which is the cause of our suffering in this material world. Hare Krishna. Time for one or two questions. No questions. So, Hare Krishna. Yeah, alright. Why is there suffering at all? You answer. Why are you suffering? Because you're stupid. That's right. We're all suffering because we're stupid. Bliss, we're all meant for bliss. Shrinvantu vishve amritasya putra aye dhamani. What is that? Aye dhamani tashtuhu. I'm missing one word. We should hear we're meant for deathlessness. We're meant for nectarian, blissful life. We're meant for living in the spiritual world with Krishna. We're meant for bliss. So why are we suffering? Because the bliss is the love of Krishna. But love means it's voluntary. Therefore we have a choice to serve Krishna or not serve Krishna. If we don't serve Krishna, we suffer. We have to choose. If we choose the wrong way, then we must suffer. The real suffering is being separate from Krishna. Birth, death, old age and disease, they're symptoms. So why are we suffering? Because we're stupid. That's why Krishna speaks Bhagavad-gita. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.